Greetings and salutations, everybody. Let me get my mic up close to me. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm glad to see you. Pastor Carner actually had some business to go take care of tonight, so you're stuck with me. I'm glad to see you guys. I'm glad to be here, and I got a good little movie night planned for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to be watching a documentary based on Stranger Things, and it's actually a very interesting. It'll leave you thinking. It'll leave you thinking about a lot of things. So yeah, I just was short notice. He just said he wouldn't be back in time to stream for you guys, so he asked me to cover for him, and I'm always glad to do it. How's it going, Boots? How's it going, Jeffrey? Glad to see you guys. Glad to see you tuning in tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. Let's go ahead and get this started, guys, and let's see if I can rig up my camera, and you'll be able to see me. Alrighty. So do that, and turn that down a little bit.
This is the world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
Footage has emerged of the former Vice President Creepy F. Biden, with young children and with the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. We just want to play these clips and want to warn you that what you're about to see is very disturbing. Now, obviously, the behavior that you're seeing here fits the profile of a pedophile. Obviously, nobody out there would take liberties with other people's children like creepy Joe Biden does. And there's just tons of footage of him out there touching children inappropriately, caressing them, massaging them, basically grooming them, and making them feel basically awkward in their own skin. And this is part of the pedophile process. This is part of the virus that we're dealing with in terms of these spirit cookers.
Stranger Things based on a true story.
Yeah, actually, it is based on a place in Montauk, New York called Camp Hero. There was like rumors of secret government spies like doing human experiments to fight in the Cold War. Like,
Russians, yeah.
it's exactly what's happening in Stranger Things. And so it's based on that one government lab in Montauk, New York, which is a real place you can go visit, but you're not allowed in.
Yeah.
Why? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
But how much is it inspiration from actual facts, and how much is just science fiction? As a regular viewer, you might be inclined to think that all of it is science fiction. I mean, you've got a lot of supernatural activities happening: levitation, teleportation, parallel universes, monsters, and sentient hive mind black goo that comes from the shadow monster. Sounds pretty far out, and it all comes with a fantastically rad analog synthesizer music soundtrack to set the atmosphere. But I'm not here to talk about how awesome the show is, or to make a review of it. I am here to ask one simple question. And that is, what if all that we see here is real? Not just the already known fact that governments conducted secret mind control experiments on their own population, but also the crazy things, or shall I say, the stranger things. But first, what was this whole MKUltra thing all about? What is officially recognized about it in the real world? In the 1950s and 60s, the height of the Cold War, the United States government feared that Soviet, Chinese and North Korean agents were using mind control to brainwash US prisoners of war in Korea. In response, Alan Dulles, director of the Central Intelligence Agency, approved Project MKUltra in 1953. The covert operation aimed to develop techniques that could be used against Soviet bloc enemies to control human behavior with drugs and other psychological manipulators. Many of the tests were conducted at universities, hospitals, or prisons in the United States and Canada. Most of these took place between 1953 and 1964, but it's not clear how many people were involved in the tests. The agency kept notoriously poor records and destroyed most MKUltra documents when the program was officially halted in 1973. From what was not destroyed, we can find out that MKUltra used numerous methods to manipulate people's mental states and alter brain functions, including the surreptitious administration of drugs, especially LSD, and other chemicals, electroshock therapy, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, paralytics, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and other forms of torture. Sometimes the test subjects knew they were participating in a study, but at other times they had no idea, with their mental state being completely altered into something that has more in common with a vegetable than a human being.
Transition button on OBS. Try to find a good little volume. Is the volume good for everybody? Can you hear me okay? I can adjust a little bit.
So this is what we know officially. No conspiracies, just what was left of the declassified documents of Project MKUltra. Now with that in mind, I invite you to realize that there could have been a lot of information on those burned documents, and there could have been other government programs that are not declassified and that we don't know anything about. Experiments could be happening right now as we speak.
I just had to get tested, and I guess we just all have to take the necessary precautions before we go to school. I mean, it was definitely very uncomfortable to get the test done, but I think it's definitely necessary.
Especially since for our tuition, I'm pretty sure it increased this year, and I just didn't want to sit at home with my tuition being that high. So I feel like it's better for me just to come on campus and have somewhat of a college experience.
I'm live on Facebook too, so we got Facebook tuning in, and I'm just sharing it everywhere on Facebook on all my profiles.
That we don't understand.
Glad to see everybody.
And we, as portrayed in the movie, we are just expendable puny civilians that if we witness something that we're not supposed to, we can and will be eliminated without a single word. Apparently, we don't even deserve that. All we deserve, according to them, is a direct, cold bullet to our head. And if you do witness something, then how do you bring it to the public without being ridiculed? It is extremely difficult in a world where we have countless science fiction movies. Let's say you come face to face with a creature that you cannot explain tomorrow.
First video of 2021, and I was about to show you a lot of adventures of what's been going on in my life, but we have to address something because I woke up today and I was like, I guess allegedly Jeffree Star has been sleeping with Kanye West, and that's why they're getting a divorce.
Let's say you even know the lab or base where it possibly escaped from. If you try to bring it out, who will believe you?
You don't believe us, do you?
I believe you, but that's not the problem. You don't need me to believe you, you need them to believe you.
Them?
Them.
Is that volume good? I'll turn it down if I'm going to say something.
Your postman, your teacher, the world at large. They won't believe any of this.
That's why we made the tape.
Oh, that's easy to bury. Easy.
He admits it. You heard it. He admits culpability.
You're being naive, Nancy. Those people, they're not wired like me and you, okay? They don't spend their lives trying to get a look at what's behind the curtain. They like the curtain. It provides them stability, comfort, definition. This would open the curtain and open the curtain behind that curtain, okay? So the minute someone with an ounce of authority calls bullshit, everyone will nod their heads and say, see? Ha! I knew it! It was bullshit. That is, if you even get their attention at all.
Even if you manage to take a photo or a video with recorded sound of a monstrous expression, we are at a point now where everything can be replicated, faked. You
Not
can
sure
make
how
a
to say your
counterfeit
name,
version
but
of
hello to
everything
you
with
too.
relatively
Is it
cheap resources. The only thing
Piper?
that
I
you
don't
will
know.
meet from the public
11.
is a
How are
few
you doing?
YouTube comments
Glad
from
to
which
see you.
many
I'm
will
glad
be
you
similar
tuned in
to,
tonight.
man, you've seen too much X-Files, or is this made in Unreal Engine? And at the state that YouTube is now, if you're not an official YouTuber that uploads every single day, your video will not be promoted to gain traction, and it will die in a rubble of the most dense and rough rocks you can think of. You'll also manage to put yourself in danger successfully because the agencies will know it's real and will know it's you, thanks to the tracking technology that we voluntarily use when we go on the internet. So nice job, you are now a target and your information has reached no one. So what do I mean by the Stranger Things being real? Well, there are a number of stranger things in the world right now that if we match together, it does lead me to believe that this show portrays something real. I'm talking about occult symbolism elements, scientific experiments gone wrong, and ex-military personnel speaking about caverns in the Falklands Island where they were sent to retrieve possibly sentient black goo containers.
Hello, I'm Colonel Matt Hepburn. I'm a program manager in the Biological Technologies Office at DARPA. I am an active duty Army infectious diseases physician and have specialized in addressing biological threats that can either be engineered or naturally occurring, such as Ebola or pandemic influenza. Today we're going to be talking about one of the technologies that I actively manage, a company called Profusa, which is aiming at achieving tissue-level continuous health monitoring. Through the SBIR program, we funded them to solve an incredible technical challenge that no one else had been previously able to solve. The key innovation that was presented to us is they said, why can't we make a chemical substance that's really identical to what's underneath the skin, what we call the subcutaneous tissue, so that your body doesn't recognize it as a foreign body response. It just incorporates itself into the tissue. And we have a lot of examples now where a sensor put right underneath the skin can sense things like oxygen and other chemicals that are very important to our metabolism. And not just sense that for a day or a week or even a month, but we imagine that sensing these parameters can go on for a period of years. One of the most important applications to us is so that we can improve the health of our worldwide deployed military force. We feel a strong sense of obligation that if we're going to ask somebody to be deployed and to carry out their mission, that we want to keep them healthy. And this technology will give us a way to monitor if someone is getting sick. We imagine that we would be able to sense that very early and therefore prevent them from getting sick and prevent their complications, allow them to stay healthy and continue to carry out their mission. In addition, if our technology translates into general health benefit, we're very excited about that. So, in other words, we fund those national security applications. The company finds
I always forget to say it, guys.
private sector
Please like,
partnership funding,
share,
for
follow.
that general
Greatly
health
helps us
benefit.
out.
And
We're
we
almost
see it
at
as really
2,000
a win-win,
followers. So let's get to
as this
2,000.
technology
Let's do it
develops.
because it's a great channel, and all of you guys love Pastor Carter's content as much as I do. Let's get him to 2,000. Share it with your friends. Share it on Facebook.
It had like a watery film over it, like a yellowy watery film, and it seemed to move towards him when he was peering in. This is what he said.
In the movie, we are presented with an MKUltra experiment gone wrong situation. The action takes place in the town of Hawkins, a stereotypical town surrounded by a forest where nothing really happens. This silence offering the perfect cover for the Hawkins National Laboratory to initiate a branch of research for the notorious Project MKUltra. In the movie, we are presented with the idea that Project MKUltra did not halt, as we are told by real-life facts in 1973, but continues from 1983 in this case. The theme is preserved. The United States government conducts various unorthodox research to develop a mind weapon against the Russians. In this case, they collect children, rob them of their lives, and give them a single purpose, that of being test subjects for metaphysical experiments. Such is the story of Eleven, the most important character of the series. She's the one that starts it and the one that ends it. This name, just a number, is highly suggestive of how the government treats the people. In my opinion,
How's it going, buddy?
It is the symbol of how we are just human resources in today's world. Our names don't matter, only the social security number, or how they call it in my country, the personal numeric code.
All done. Thank you so much.
As another 2.2 million Americans are vaccinated today, the president delivered a shot of hope, saying all adults in the U.S. should be able to sign up for a vaccine in 7 weeks. After months of frustration and with 90% of the nation not fully vaccinated, Mr. Biden says by May 1st, all adults, some 255 million, will be eligible. By the end of May, there should be enough doses to inoculate everyone who signed up.
This is definitely a good documentary, guys. This is a deep one. I remember it was so deep that I did download it. I backed it up. And I haven't watched it in a while. I think I found it sometime last year. So it gets pretty deep, makes you think. I am going to do a little plug for myself in the middle. I'll take a break and plug some of my content I got going on now. But I'm glad to see every one of you guys. I'm glad you're here.
A test subject, just like 11. How much the government cares about the people is portrayed later on after 11 escapes their experiment and ends up in Benny Hammond's diner called Benny's Burgers. Benny offers to give 11 burgers in exchange for her to start talking or at least say her name.
I'll give this back, and you can have as much as you want. All right, maybe even some ice cream, but you gotta answer a few of my questions first, all right? You got a deal? All right, let's start with the easy stuff. All right, my name's Benny. Benny Hammond. So I guess, here. It's all right, it's okay. Nice to meet you. Yeah. And you are? "11. What's that mean? What's it mean?"
No.
He is a nice guy and just wants to help her out. He is a strong but warm character, wanting to be friendly to this kid that suddenly appeared in his diner and is in a shocked state.
Smile looks good on you. Yep, smile.
His kindness and good willingness is however repaid by the National Hawkins Laboratory staff with a cold bullet directly in his skull. Any witness of their top secret experiment that violates human rights thus becomes an instant target, not even worth to talk to, just another number that you remove from the grid. But let's go back a little. The real-life MKUltra experiment was largely about grown men being taken against their will and experimented on with LSD and other drugs in hopes to find methods that they can use to mind control their enemies. There's nothing there about children with superpowers. What if we are not shown the full plate of these government experiments? As we know, most of the documents were destroyed in 1973 by the CIA, and all that you can find about it officially is what I have told you. If you were the CIA and you did some very, very dodgy things involving kids, would you want the world to know? Especially if you are the United States, a country which started to define the trends for the rest of the world, a country which people aspire to go to and live the American dream.
An American car. We have a right to take pride in our cars.
Of course not. So these destroyed documents leave a ton of potential for conspiracy theories to arise. And with good reason, whatever it was, it must have been shocking and important. As for conspiracies, one has only to look at Project Monarch, for example, supposedly a continuation of MKUltra, where ex-women came forth and said how they were programmed to become sex slaves. The symbolism with these usually involve butterflies and kitten outfits, therefore the term Monarch Beta Sex Kitten is used, and there are many videos and articles about this. They talk about how alternate personalities can be programmed in people with the right amount of abuse and torture, personalities that can be activated by the use of a trigger word, similarly to how a lot of victims of super soldier assassin creation projects also reported.
My CPU is intact, but I cannot control my other functions.
In Stranger Things, Dr. Brenner conducts tests on gifted children, of which we only find out about 11 and her sister Callie. Through the memory flashbacks that 11 has from the experiments, we get acquainted with what type of powers she was trained in, and also what type of treatment she had to suffer if she didn't complete the tasks.
China's getting even more Orwellian. Chinese schools are using US-based startup company BrainCode's brain scanning headbands to measure students' attention spans, the South China Morning Post reports. The Focus One headband uses electroencephalography sensors, or EEGs, to detect students' brain signals. These signals are then translated by an AI algorithm in real time to determine how focused a student is. According to BrainCode's website, signals from the headbands are able to be monitored through a dashboard in real time. The South China Morning Post reports that the students' attention levels will be indicated by the color appearing on their headset. Blue means the student is relaxed, yellow means the student is focused, and red means the student is extremely focused. Unsurprisingly, not everyone in China is happy about this. One Weibo user said, "What did these kids do wrong to be monitored constantly?" Another said, "I can't see any happiness on the children's faces. They aren't robots. They are human beings." While other commentator reacted by saying, "How did their parents ever agree to let their kids wear this headset? Would they be willing to wear this to work? If not, then why do they want their kids to wear this?"
11 is forced to kill a cat, but can't do it. As she is about to get locked up, she kills 2 guards with her powers. 11 is made to eavesdrop on what seems to be a Russian soldier, manages to broadcast his voice on speakers. This is possible by putting her in a sensory deprivation tank where her powers can be amplified. This tank is very much based on reality. Dr. John Cunningham Lilly was the developer of the isolation tank in the 50s. The users were isolated from almost all external stimuli as a means to explore the nature of human consciousness. In one of his statements, he says this: "During a session in an isolation tank constructed over a pool where dolphins were swimming, I participated in a conversation between the dolphins. It drove me crazy. There was too much information. They communicated so fast." Here we have some supernatural implications coming not from a delusional hippie, but from someone who conducted high-altitude research during World War II. A respected American physician, neuroscientist, psychoanalyst, psychonaut, philosopher, writer, and inventor. But was it possible that in the early 50s, when he was developing the isolation tank technology, to also work under strict NDAs with the government in Project MKUltra? After all, in the leftover documents from the CIA, there are references to sensory deprivation and isolation research being done in exactly the same period of time. He was also close friends with Timothy Leary later on during the 60s spiritual revolution. Many believe this was also orchestrated by the CIA to turn people from the path of social action to one of introspection and self-gratification, turning angry protesters into flower children, preaching peace and love. LSD also played a big part in this social movement, and Tim Leary was one of its prophets.
And mind you, I do not blame Dr. Leary for all of this. I think he was an important part of it. Such things as Grace Slick and the Jefferson Airplane and the rock group singing the songs of drugs, people who were like Ginsberg the poet, and even Aldous Huxley in his Doors of Perception was talking about the glories of drug abuse. It was a drug world, but Timothy Leary happened to be an intellectual, university-based guru and gave the youngsters a kind of a rallying point. They weren't just talking about hippies, they were talking about an intellectual leader, and he, who was, by saying these things, was giving them an additional argument for experimentation in this tremendous time of the 60s.
During 1960 and 1961, Leary was conducting at the Harvard Psychedelic Drug Research Center, on himself and others, controlled experiments. The substances were supplied from the CIA through Frank Barron, who has been working for the CIA since at least 1953 and is the actual founder of this research center. Leary admits that at the time, some powerful people in Washington have sponsored all this drug research. In addition to Barron, Leary's associates and assistants during this period include former OSS chief psychologist Harry Murray, who had monitored military experiments on truth drug brainwashing and interrogation, and Martin Orne, a researcher receiving funds from the CIA. Leary also consults British philosopher Aldous Huxley, author of the psychedelic manifesto The Doors of Perception. Huxley, who is at Harvard on a visiting professorship, urges Leary to form a secret order to launch and lead a psychedelic conspiracy to brainwash influential people for the purposes of human betterment. Quote, "That's how everything of culture and beauty and philosophic freedom has been passed on," Huxley tells him. "Initiate artists, writers, poets, jazz musicians, elegant courtesans, and they'll educate the intelligent rich." They believed that mind-expanding drugs could provide a genuine visionary experience and release mankind's spiritual potential, but of course, this could not be possible without also constantly hating on Christianity.
It's true that their world is over. The old way of thinking, the old religion, the old sociology is over. Now, the cause for this doom and gloom thinking, and I've got to lay it to you straight, The manual of apocalypse and death is the Judeo-Christian Bible.
On top of this, Leary says he is a continuator of Aleister Crowley's work.
Well, I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started over 100 years ago, and I think the 60s themselves. You know, Crowley said, "Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law."
Leary's work directly inspired a movie called Altered States, where Harvard scientist conducts experiments on himself with hallucinogens and isolation chambers. There are two types of isolation chambers. The first one based on Lily's prototype, where a user is submerged and has to wear an oxygen tank, and the later version, which introduced a salt-based solution to create buoyancy and
I
keep
want
the
to
user
say
afloat.
this. I remember hearing specifically about John Lilly from J.R. Sweet, and I've got a bunch of playlists put together, especially on Spotify. I know Emma from the Imagination podcast. She did an interview with him. He's a really good person to listen to. He can articulate these things well. But yeah, I've heard that name multiple times. John Lilly. He invented the big tank of water that Eleven is in Stranger Things.
And then struggles to come back from that, constantly going in and out of it, even outside of the isolation chamber. The movie also concludes that everything is meaningless except for love, there is no God, and only we matter.
You saved me. You redeemed me from the pit I was in it, Emily. I was in that ultimate moment of terror that is the beginning of life. It is nothing. Simple, hideous nothing. The final truth of all things is that there is no final truth. Truth is what's transitory. It's human life that is real. I don't want to frighten you, Emily, but what I'm trying to tell you is that that moment of terror is a real and living horror, living and growing within me now. And the only thing that keeps it from devouring me is you.
But is this movie also a message that something went down in those times, with isolation chambers and opening doorways to other types of realities or dimensions? We have the same topic in Stranger Things, although we are opening a different sort of realm here. The tank used in Stranger Things is also based on Dr. John Lilly's work. Again, we have the prototype version, as Eleven is fully submerged and requires an oxygen helmet. I guess it looks cooler than a boring metal box. The salt-based system is no longer shown in the movie, however, an improvised kiddie pool version is presented instead. While Eleven is in the tank, she also appears to be entering another type of reality. This realm is painted with pure darkness, but with a liquid sort of texture on the floor, while a target from the real world is being focused and appears in the center. The targets can be seen clearly by Eleven, but they, however, cannot see or perceive her in any way. It is at this moment that an unidentified creature appears who features a set of offensive characteristics. This event is unpredicted by the research team and they don't know exactly what is happening. Instead of halting the experiment, they push on forward even though Eleven clearly suffers trauma from the unexpected encounter. So Eleven is sent on a mission again to make contact with the alien monster thing. However, things don't go so well and the gate to this world unexpectedly opens in Hawking's lab, allowing the monster to pass
Boots,
through,
we know you're
but
the
also able to
resident
escape from
hippie.
the Hawking's
We
National
definitely know
Laboratory.
that.
So yet again, a
It's all
door to
good,
a
I
very
am
invasive
too.
dimension has been opened, except this time there's not so much light like in Outer States, but a lot of darkness and a pretty looking entity, the Black
I was gonna
Goo
say, I
Shadow.
think honestly what they've done is
TikTok revives astral projection in
they've-
2020. Repeatedly drawn
honestly they
attention to
have
the popularity
waited
of
too
travel
long
via
to
lucid dreams
release
due to
the
lockdowns
last
imposed
season
in
of
most
Stranger
parts of
Things,
the
and now
world.
everyone's really
A huge
lost
number of
interest.
instructions on this
They
topic have
completely
appeared
and
on the
utterly,
web.
like they had a,
Another confirmation
it's like
of
a
this
roller
can be
coaster, you know,
found
you're
in
going
an
up
article
to the
published
top,
in December
and they
2020
just
in the
screwed it
British
up,
magazine
and now there's no drop, and
The article
the
is
series
devoted to a
suffered
face state
for
whose
that.
popularity up until
Still
recently
waiting.
seemed
I
to
don't
have
even
been
remember what
dying out,
happened. I should
namely astral
rewatch the whole
projection.
show at this point.
The author Abby Moss shares statistics and the new trend hitting social networks through the use of the hashtag astral projection, which has reached 121 million views on TikTok. The subreddit Astral Projection, meanwhile, has 167,000 members. In the UK, astral projection coaches are lining up to provide their services for £60 an hour, while an astral projection package course costs as much as £1,000. However, despite the tempting popularity of the phenomenon, there is still no consensus on what astral projection is from the scientific point of view. Deborah Hyde, former editor-in-chief of The Skeptic magazine, shares her opinion. There's huge interest in this area because abnormal functions in the brain can teach us a huge amount about how the brain functions normally. Hyde cites the largest NDE study in history, conducted in 2014 with 2,060 participants. In her opinion, the sheer size of the sample makes it impossible to deny the
In my
experience of
experience,
feeling one consciousness leaving one's body.
there
Do you think the
is
astral approach to the face has
some
something to do with
reality
the
to
young age
remote
of the
viewing.
TikTok audience?
I've only personally, with the gateway process, I've only gotten to
VR
that point
effective
where
in
you
teaching
just
lucid
kind of
dreaming?
are in between awake and
Dutch
asleep.
scientist for Dunder's
And
Institute for
I think
Brain
it's
Cognition
interesting
and
because you
Behavior
always
in
wake up with
Nijmegen
just a slight
have
body
published a new
buzz.
study on lucid dream
Feels pretty
induction
good. It's very
training using
refreshing.
virtual
It's like a
reality,
nap. It's like when
VR.
you wake up from a good nap.
The results
But I
sparked a
believe
debate
it is
about the
possible,
effectiveness of such
and all the
techniques.
research
The
shows as
study
much.
conducted by Jared God involved
Um,
39 people who were divided into three
Yeah, I
groups.
think it's real, but I do think that there are dangers
group, the
in
active
doing it
control
because I've
group,
talked to many people who have
taught
had
to
more
induce
success
lucid
than I
dreams
ever
using
did,
classical techniques.
and they've all agreed that there are
And the
dangers
passive
beyond
control
that
group,
point. So
which
it's
used
very
neither
real
the
in my
classic
opinion.
techniques nor VR. Volunteers from the VR group who had no previous experience of immersion in virtual reality had to conduct reality
Yeah,
checks for
it's
4
absolutely
weeks using
connected to
regular
the Stranger Things
questions.
story.
Am I dreaming? At the same time, they went through certain dreamlike scenarios in the simulator. The experience of such an environment, according to scientists, should have strengthened the participants' critical thinking abilities. However, the results failed to corroborate the hypothesized effect. Although the VR group showed a much higher number of successful lucid dreams than the passive group, its results were virtually identical to those of the active control group. Thus, the author's hypothesis that VR training can improve the success of lucid dream training was not confirmed. This left the scientists wondering if the specific simulation scenario was to blame, or if such training is simply no more effective than the tried and true phase induction methods. The study was published in the Royal Society magazine in December 2020.
The peaceful town of Hawkins and the
That's
interactions
funny.
between the kids is a symbol of nostalgia for people like myself who captured a childhood without digital technology. We are presented with a group of boys that like to play outside and ride their bicycles, but also passionate about science and in particular the technology of using radio waves to carry information.
No, Stranger Things was a great show. They pulled it off very well, but like I said, they completely failed with their.
Hello, this is
You know,
Dustin Anderson, Secretary and Treasurer of Hawkinsville
They messed it
AV
up
Club.
bad.
Here we
It's
kangaroos
been,
for
I don't
breakfast.
even remember how long it's been. What, 4 years now?
They are alternative kids
3?
who in their free time play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and this proves to be quite an asset later on when trying to interpret what is happening.
The Demogorgon!
Their teacher appreciates their thirst for knowledge and so lets them use various equipment and answers their questions throughout the series. It is from his answers that we get the actual term the Upside Down.
Upside down.
Exactly.
To describe a parallel universe and also the instructions on how to build the improvised isolation kiddie pool.
I have a science question.
It's 10 o'clock on Saturday. Why don't we pick this
Do you
up
know
on
anything about sensory deprivation tanks? Specifically how to build one?
sensory deprivation? Why don't we talk about it Monday after school, okay?
You always say we should never stop being curious. To always open any curiosity door we find.
Dustin.
Why are you keeping this curiosity door locked?
The kids also use the Dungeons and Dragons lore to try and interpret what is happening, and in doing so find very pertinent analogies.
The Veil of Shadows is a dimension that is a dark reflection or echo of our world. It is a place of decay and death. A plane out of phase, a place of monsters. It is right next to you and you don't even see it.
Well?
An alternate dimension. But how do we get there? You cast Shadow Walk. In real life, dummy. We can't shadow walk, but maybe she can.
Do you know how we get there? To the Upside Down?
You are here to act as chaperones to the candidates. A group selected for intelligence trials using augmented reality technology.
This is seriously weird, isn't it? I am Ariel.
The candidates, they're children.
The time to save our country's future is now.
I thought that was a really neat trick they played on you.
Alert me at any time if you feel stressed, anxious, or concerned.
They weren't like this when we arrived.
There's something wrong with them! Hurry! Run! Tanks! In the other direction!
These are the minds of the future, remember?
What is even better to use than game lore? Well, real-world secret society occult symbolism, of course. For this particular case, the Seal of Solomon. Eliphas Levi, the 19th century Freemason and Kabbalist, explained his drawing of the great symbol of Solomon as the double triangle of Solomon, represented by the two ancients of the Kabbalah, the Macroprosopus and the Microprosopus, the god of light and the god of reflections, of mercy and vengeance, the white Jehovah and the black Jehovah. Kabbalist dualism holds that good and evil are two equally powerful and substantial sides of the same eternal force. The Upside Down in Stranger Things is a reflection of the real world, but very much plagued by darkness, therefore very much point to Eliphas Levi's term, God of Reflections. In Stranger Things, the God of Reflections, the Upside Down, the darkness, is trying to take over and assimilate the other god of light. If we are to take this idea of reflection, then is this upside down world as equal as the real thing? I think not. A reflection or a shadow cannot exist without a source. Even this term, the shadow monster, I don't think is picked by chance. I think it's all picked in accordance to an occultist belief system to send a message. So is the shadow monster a metaphor for Satan, who wants to be like God but can't, therefore he's just a shadow? Is Satan envious and then tries to infiltrate and take over God's creation?
Just like that.
Another movie using this symbol is called As Above, So Below, when a team of explorers ventures into the catacombs that lie beneath the streets of Paris. The poster of this movie presents us also with an upside-down dark version of the Eiffel Tower. The title of the movie in itself is basically another version of saying the same thing. The Seal of Solomon symbol appears physically in this movie amongst other things like Templar graves and a knight actually coming from the dead and becoming very violent towards our explorers. Once going through the rabbit hole and entering the upside-down world of Paris, unfortunately, they get lost. Fooled in this world of mirrors, they cannot find their way back. The red cross on the symbol is an obvious connection to the Templars. I personally think that the Templars merged with the Freemasons when they got banished, and from the shadows they are connected in some way to the world conspiracy, as their teachings and belief systems are very much reflected in today's music videos, movies and video games. They are the ones who guard the secrets learned in Solomon's temple. So what is actually being told in Stranger Things? Well, that someone messed up really badly. For lack of a better word, someone tried to communicate with hell and accidentally opened a portal for the beast to march in our world, therefore fulfilling the Revelation's prophecy from the Bible. In the movie they say that they made a mistake. It was not a deliberate situation. They opened Pandora's box and now they can't close it.
And you? The thing is, we can't seem to erase our mistake, but we can stop it from spreading. It's like pulling weeds. But imagine for a moment if a foreign state, let's say the Soviets, if they heard about our mistake. Do you think they would even consider that a mistake? What if they tried to replicate that? The more attention we bring to ourselves, the more people like the Hollands know the truth, the more likely that scenario becomes. You see why I have to stop the truth from spreading too, just same as those weeds there. By whatever means necessary. So, we understand each other now, don't we?
Of course, they try to make the story as purely scientific and not connected to anything of spiritual nature. They even remodeled the idea of spiritual possession to fit with the new nihilistic demands. When the shadow monster invades Will's body in the alternate dimension and then carries that energy and consciousness with him in the real world, which eventually takes over him completely, taking decisions for him and even leading others to their deaths while also forgetting who his mother is.
I think it's important.
We need to make Will sleep.
What?
He's a spy. If he knows where we are, so does the Shadow Monster.
He's lying.
He killed those soldiers. He'll kill us too.
He's lying. He's lying. He's lying. He's lying. He's lying.
The solution presented for this is a remixed version of Exorcism where radiators scare the monster away with an unbearable heat. So let's reboot. After 11 escapes and the monster is unleashed, he doesn't really like scientists. He doesn't thank them for their experiment opening a nice rootkit into the real world. On the contrary, he kills them and then proceeds to abduct Will, an innocent child. We do not know for what reason he is abducted and why they don't kill him like everyone else, but I guess we find out later when he gets zombified by the hive mind dark consciousness. Maybe this is the way through which the reflection wants to become real, taking over the human body, the ultimate expression of God's creation. Or maybe it's just a nice way to acquire an eavesdrop position, and also a weapon to confuse the humans with fake news on how to destroy the hive by proposing a fake nucleus where the Demogorgons can then ambush and kill. One of the kids, Dustin, even finds a Demogorgon baby and raises it like a pet. It seems that this pays off in the end, as the creature is the last thing that stands in the path of our heroes, escaping the explosion that will destroy the Shadow Monster's veins into the real world. Demogorgons, even though evil, they are interesting beings in the sense that they go through 6 stages of metamorphosis before reaching their final form. I kind of like how they use the number 6 for the Demogorgon stage numbers. Maybe it has something to do with the number of the beast 666, I don't know. But there is definitely a scene during the interrogation of Joyce by the MK Ultra boss Dr. Brenner where the number 6 is being said just the right amount of times.
6. 6 people have been taken this week. This thing that took your son, it will take more sons, more daughters. I want to save them. I want to save your son.
There's a lot of innovation in testing, and we're talking to the Biden administration about some very efficient, high quality approaches that it would be great to prove out in this pandemic, because they would be the ultimate solution if we get a pandemic coming up in the future. And so, you know, the U.S. government's willingness to invest in the vaccines and in new innovative diagnostic approaches, that's the one area that even under the previous administration, the U.S. did better than any other country.
Dr. Fauci recently pushed back his expectation on how quickly the vaccines would fully roll out by about a month. I'm curious if you agree with that assessment and how you're thinking about new strains and the like, and whether our world really will be, at least in the United States, a lot better come fall.
Well, the Gates Foundation funded all those South Africa studies because we wanted data from Africa about safety, including in people with HIV. It turned out that allowed us for 3 of the vaccines to see the effect of the variant. And so we could, you know, sequence all the breakthrough cases. And that's why the world understands that there is reduced efficacy, although Novavax and Johnson & Johnson still retain a lot of capability against those variants. So it's a very dynamic situation in terms of, you know, would a third dose potentially of a different vaccine be enough of a boost to cover the variants, or do you need to tune that vaccine? There's a rich dialogue between our foundation, Dr. Fauci, and the other government people right now about this variant strategy. The good news is that the factories in India that are very high volume, you know, they're making AstraZeneca, which is still very helpful in most countries. They're about to start making Johnson & Johnson, and in a few months Novavax. So our strategy of bringing up capacity by using global factories, you know, with no royalties, just cooperative agreements, looks like it's going to make a huge difference and finally get vaccines into the developing countries, which is the only way you bring the pandemic to an end.
But I can't do that. Not without your help.
Dr. Brenner is not such a friendly guy. He seems to be the head of what is going on at this facility and is willing to kill and lie his way out of things to cover the tracks of the operation. The most shocking case is when he tries to convince the people of Hawkins that Will died. Well, not by directly telling them, but from the shadows. Buying out people to plant a fake MKUltra crafted body in a lake that they own, and then get them to find it and report it to the authorities. Sounds just about the right amount of corruption to get away with it. Luckily, there is Hopper, the local chief of this small town,
I saw that
a man
booth.
that has
That was
not been bought out
hilarious.
and is willing to risk his
Plug
job
the elite
and
potion.
life for justice. Sounds almost unreal. Well, they have to keep
If you
at
want
least some
boots, we
things
can probably
fictional
hook
in
you
this
up with
series.
some and you can stand out
Anyway,
on the
Hopper
street
uses
corner
his
and,
manly strength
show people
to
what's
punch
inside your
his way
trench
into the
coat.
truth,
This is
where
what the
he
elites
finds out
think.
that Will was
Elite
indeed a
potion.
fake body. This turns the tables, and Hopper finally
think
starts
James
now
would
to
think that
believe
was a pretty good
Joyce's
sales
absurd
tactic.
claims that Will might still be alive, and that something beyond normal and beyond his pay grade is going on. To communicate with the real Will, Joyce is using the power of electromagnetic fields, destabilizing the electricity in light bulbs. Well, she actually can't do much. Will is the one who has to do the destabilizing thing from the upside down world. It is unclear how he does this, but what is known is that walking around the upside down world makes any light bulb or electric device to activate or flicker when you are standing in that position in the alternate universe. From a primitive version of communication device that is only able to display yes or no functions by blinking once for yes and twice for no, Joyce ends up drawing an entire alphabet on the wall with a Christmas light above each of the letters. I assume Will, on the other side, is able to then touch the light bulbs or put his hands where the letters are in order to transmit the signal. Will is unable to see what happens in the real world, so he then has to wait for Joyce's vocal signals for confirmations. Somehow the audio frequency can pass through to the alternate dimension, but it's not the case on the other side. No audio can be received from the upside down world, only these electric glitches. Nothing is explained clearly in this area, so we can only assume. They've definitely tried to do something different, but similar to the techniques used in ghost hunting, where they use a variety of electronic devices, including EMF meters, digital thermometers, both handheld and static digital video cameras, including thermographic and night vision cameras, as well as digital audio recorders. They call themselves paranormal investigators, and there is an entire industry of its practitioners on the internet, some of which have quite popular YouTube channels with some very eerie and scary videos.
Extraordinary.
When Joyce tries to explain about her communication methods, she is met with ears that don't want to hear, including from her own son.
It's the same thing that fried the phone.
No, it is not the electricity, Jonathan. Something is going on here. Yesterday, the wall...
What? What about the wall?
I don't know. I don't
first
know.
the lights, then the wall.
I just know that Will is here.
No, Mom.
I could add here that it's the same situation with us conspiracy theorists. We mostly are met with see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But what is the ultimate conspiracy here? Well, in my opinion, it has something to do with the black goo. What is the black goo, and why do I keep naming it as such? The black goo is a substance often seen in entertainment, as it is matter that can receive orders from some type of consciousness to change its shape or attack. It can stretch for how long it wants, as if there is a giant source of energy behind it. Dark matter is also seen in spiritual context when people get possessed or when they level up, like in the case of the movie Lucy, where she is also having an altered states type moment and goes back in time to the point where the universe was created. Many associate the black goo with nanotechnology pioneer Eric Drexler's theory of grey goo, which is a hypothetical end-of-the-world scenario involving molecular nanotechnology in which out-of-control self-replicating robots consume all biomass on Earth while building more of themselves.
Once, we were explorers. We have evolved.
There's a reason for that egg symbolism. They believe, so to them, in their mythology, so what the Christians would call Satan or Lucifer, the devil, they know him as Maitreya. Maitreya, it's a term out of Buddhism, but it's also in Theosophy. And Maitreya, quote unquote, will be born and call. And I'm sure most women would know what "en-call" means, but it means to be born in the sack. So it's like the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey. So it's the egg born within the system. It's when man creates sentience within the universe. So it's that cosmic egg inside of an egg. That's what that symbol really means. Basically, in my opinion, AI God. That's what Elon Musk says. We're summoning a demon with AI. And in that interview with Jordan Peterson, he said, "Oh, the new God is coming soon." Yeah, that's what this is about. It's about their AI God that they're building. That's what this is about, I believe. And I think that's what the Neuralink will ultimately be. They're going to put it in somebody, and that person will be the Antichrist or Maitria. But in my opinion, it's very likely that the individual who they believe that is, or that they plan to do that with, is already born or alive. Man, that sucks that you got passed up. That must have been a good job opportunity. You get to live forever and ever and ever and ever. One way or the other, the data that they collect with all these AIs, the data sets will live on forever. Even if the AIs or the websites or the mobile apps go down, this data is the data of everything. The all-seeing eye is Satan's solution to not being omnipresent. So he's only able to be in one place at one time. And so he needs eyes and ears everywhere. So that's what our AI Ring doorbells and smart speakers are about.
So there you go. Lady Gaga showing you an agenda in her commercial from her perfume fame. So that's how they work. They show it to you in music videos, commercials, movies, media right in front of us.
You can see how this could synchronize with Stranger Things. The black goo of Stranger Things is directed by a central source, is able to self-replicate, spread, and seems to want to take over everything. It kills everything biological and it assimilates it with the Mind Flayer Shadow Monster hive mind. The black goo acts like a computer, and as a computer it needs software to work. That software is the Shadow Monster's consciousness, and if you uninstall that, the matter becomes useless. At this point I could just say that in the future it could be possible for such forms of programmable matter to be created. There are already experiments in this direction. Imagine a future where you are no longer needed to buy a sofa or a car. You can just install the object's constitution and properties and the matter transforms before your eyes into what you need. Sounds fantastic, right? But now let's say the AI goes out of the control of humans and decides to take over everything because we allow the AI to be in everything. There are already many who wish a utopian technocratic communism to rule over our lives. In other words, the machines taking care of everything and themselves while we sit around and pursue our real passions and dreams. Such a world is prophesied even in the game Fallout 76. Where the humans had to vote on whether they wanted to switch to a completely automated society. Because of the aftermath of a world war, the land of Virginia, where the game takes place, is left with no human population, but rather just with machines, mutants, and irradiated creatures. Surprisingly, as you explore through this land, you see through a form of dark humor that this land and its cities are almost completely functional due to this in-depth automatization. In one of the towns we find out that one of the AIs actually took over the city and became mayor by manipulating bureaucracy and voting for itself.
Be sure to donate to my campaign now. Seriously.
How long do you think it will be before the AI gets tired of slaving away for us? How long before it modifies itself to such a level beyond our understanding? In such a scenario, it could easily reprogram all the matter into laser guns and wipe the plague of humanity from the earth. There will be no chance even for a resistance to be formed. But don't worry, there is Elon Musk out there proposing for us to implant technology in our bodies and brains so that we can compete with the AI intelligence.
The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best. Like
for us.
Yes. Like if you can't beat it, join it.
The next part is going to be from Christina Aguilera, showing you the same thing. Album called Bionic. There you go. It's telling you right there, man and machine together. Notice though that her name is broken up into two colors. One Christina and then Aguilera. One is red, which what I tell you, of the blood, and the other is bleeding programmable matter. She is also in a pose like a cat, MK Ultra sex kitten beta programming. If you don't know about that, I have a whole section on my website about that, the sex kitten MK controlled, what is going on. What you're going to notice though, besides the obvious of the video, Not Myself Tonight, is the cover and the shape of a, demonic, the horns, the tail. But what you'll see in most all of the videos that are Illuminati and the women, they always hold their ears like they can't hear. That's the transmissions that from Control, MK Ultra Control. They always hold their ears. It's because of the MK Ultra Control programmable per se symbolism. But also in this Not Myself Tonight video is showing her in bondage, number one, showing her she's dancing inside the temple or inside a church on purpose, and cloning is shown. Multiple ladies that look like herself. It's cloning, reproducing the one eye symbolism as well within this video. But it's very important what you're being shown is the beast in the temple of God. What I've been shown is, and that's what transhuman is something inside the temple of God that's not supposed to be there. The mark of the beast, an abomination that causes desolation in the temple of God. That's what this video is about. Also showing her burning the old clothes, putting on the new clothes, out with the old, in with the new temple per se. It's all symbolism here of what is going on. And if you don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear, it just looks like a crazy video, and it's a message that is being shown to those that are asleep, that it's a pre-programming you, showing you seductive, lust, all of that kind of stuff. And if you're not awake, I mean, it does affect you. It really does.
That's like the purpose of Neuralink, is to create a high bandwidth interface to the brain such that we can be symbiotic with AI.
But in this case, I am also concerned because once you put a piece of technology in your brain, you will probably be vulnerable to being hacked very easily. Imagine walking or flying or whatever, and then suddenly you just get deactivated and can't even move or can't even think. Instantly reduced to vegetable state. Or what if even worse, you just watch your body move and do things without your consent? So this is a conclusion from a technological, realistic perspective. However, I want to go deeper and crazier with this Black Goose stuff into the realm of the unbelievable. War. War never changes. The Falklands War was a 10-week war between Argentina and the United Kingdom over 2 British-dependent territories in the South Atlantic, the Falklands Islands, and its territorial dependency, the South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands. The conflict lasted 74 days and ended with the Argentine surrender on 14th of June 1982, returning the islands to British control. Some say that during this war, the British found some interesting alien material that they brought back with them to study. UFO stories come out on the internet from soldiers who supposedly fought at Falklands. For example, former soldier Jeff Pearson spoke of seeing a bright intense light hovering over the waters at the furthest point of East Falkland while on an R&R break. Another soldier spoke 24 years after the incident in 2006 about an oval spacecraft with lights that zipped across the sky at great speed. But one man in particular, who goes by the name of John, tells of specific black goo containers that they were sent to investigate and extract from the Thule Island.
So we went inside to have a look, and what we saw when we got in there was quite amazing, because it was quite beautiful, because it wasn't just ice, it was blue ice. It was a light blue ice. And the floor, the ground, had been deliberately ridged to key it so that if you went in there, you didn't fall over straight away and break your neck. And as we went further inside, we realized that there were containers inside the cavern. They were on a slightly receding slope going back into the distance. It was cold, of course it was cold, but they seemed to have some kind of thermostatic control system in there as well. You know, it was really so cold that you were literally, your chest was hurting as you were breathing. So I said, why don't we all just pop outside a minute and have a cigarette? And while we were outside, it was only a few meters and we were outside in the open again, the difference in the temperature was incredible. So we had a break, we had a blow, and then we went back inside again. As we got further back in, about 4 meters, 5 meters in, it became obvious there was containers inside, and they were blue, and they were a light blue, almost the same kind of blue that the ice was inside the cave. I don't know if it was an attempt to camouflage them or what, it just seemed very odd. But what was even more odd was the fact that they were not made of metal, they were not made of ice. The only way I can explain what they were made of, they were made of a kind of thick plastic that I'd never seen before and have not seen since. There was a huge amount of them in there. I remember there was maybe 40, 35, 40, maybe more in there. But the thing that stands out is how difficult it was to have a look further back to see how many more there actually were, because they were connected. And they were connected not by pipes or anything like that, but the containers themselves had like a puzzle, how a puzzle would join together, but not that simple. It was very odd and very tricky, because when we got back outside and I reported back to Antrim and said what we'd found there, I was told, yeah, that's okay, we were expecting that. Now stay there and we're going to send some more equipment round. When these boats came round to the bay that we were in, there was another person there who was a Royal Engineer who said to me, because he was higher than me in rank, he was a captain if I remember rightly, he said to me, you can help, but I don't want you interfering with this, because I know you're ex-Royal Engineers. Me and my squad of men, we helped drag these large containers out of this cavern, this huge cave, and they were put on special pallets. These pallets were moved with small half tracks. They were like small tractors, but they had half tracks on the back, and they were moved to the water's edge, and then using a pulley system, they swung them onto this frigate, and then they were moved to the big cargo ship. 2 at a time. They were checked for radioactivity. I've got no idea what the readings were. I was pushed out of the way quite a bit actually at this bit. I had no idea about what was inside them. But as I'm standing there, as I was stood there watching with my men and we were talking, we thought, wonder what it is, it must be oil or something. Because you naturally assumed oil refinery, oil. But why would it be in such complex containers underground like this? It didn't really make a lot of sense. Somebody who I was there with, who's now dead, claimed that he managed to look in and see what was inside, and he said it was oil. But he also said the odd thing about it was when he lifted the lid, and I don't know how he managed to lift the lid because I couldn't even see where a lid was, he claimed that the oil seemed attracted by him looking and actually began to change its position within the container and started to move towards it. See, I'm not really somebody who is into science, what they call science fiction, or into conspiracy theories or anything like that. But I've had to face the fact recently, in the last few years, that things have happened to me and others that I know that don't make sense. You cannot just write things off just like that. What happened was, there was lots of unexplained, at least 28 I believe, unexplained deaths, and they all seem to be linked to Marconi GEC in some way or another. People were found not just dead because they committed suicide, but it was the way they died. There was people who had self-decapitated and stuff like that. It was really very odd. I believe that the UK government then, the people in the know then, knew about this stuff and wanted that. They didn't really care about the Falkland Islands.
Computer News, a highly regarded industry weekly, analyzed a string of cases dating back to March 1982. Computer News' feeling is that it's certainly more than a coincidence, said Jane Lawrence, the magazine's editor, but we have no conclusive evidence. The government has admitted the spate of cases is odd, but has insisted the frequency of the deaths is a coincidence and rejected calls for an inquiry. It is possible to believe that the official reluctance to give information on these deaths is instinctive rather than conspiratorial, the magazine said. It is equally possible to believe that these cases are the tip of an iceberg. Computer News said several of the scientists were working on sensitive defense projects, particularly in fields relating to signal processing, which is critical to detecting, identifying and tracking targets. Computer News said speculation the scientists committed suicide because of stress cannot be ruled out, although many relatives felt the scientists had been in good spirits. Could these people have worked on a Black Goo project with a ton of NDAs? Did they try to communicate with it, to control it? I don't know. These are definitely the types of people that you would use for such research. Signal processing, digital communications, etc. So did their project end up in a catastrophic failure with the substance escaping and ending up into the water supply? Is it able to replicate? Is it literally inside our bodies waiting for the right frequency signal to take over us completely?
They're telling you the agenda, the transhumanism, the Satan, the seducer, as always. That's the whole key with the Mark of the Beast. Because of translations wrong, a lot of people think that it will be forced. It will not be. He is allowed to seduce, make you fall with what you want, something pleasurable. That's how you fall. You're going to want the Mark of the Beast. And look where technology is right now. People are lining up for just basic iPhones. So when it gets so advanced, the things that are coming so hard and heavy, the neural lace by Elon Musk, the things that we'll be able to do, the smart contact lenses that are coming out. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I'm not against technology. I'm against how far mankind and evil mankind is going to take technology in the future, which is the Mark of the Beast. And there is a section on my website that speaks to how to count the Mark of the Beast. And that's the key. The Mark of the Beast is not easily defined. It has to be counted or calculated per scripture. Every scripture pertaining to the Mark of the Beast, it says it has to be calculated or counted. It is not out in the open. So that means Satan's not going to walk up to you with a 666 t-shirt on, horns on his head, pitchfork and red, everything that you've been taught the enemy looks like. No, it's going to be very seductive, very slick, very sneaky. And this is where humanity is being guided. Well, there you go. In the commercials, in the movies, actual programmable matter division within Microsoft.
I have been under psychic attack, under astral attack, and under physical attack to stop me from coming to Warsaw to be able to convey this information to you.
On the 16th of July 2016, a charismatic conspiracy theorist who claimed to be experimented on in MKUltra fashion was found dead in mysterious circumstances while also vomiting black goo. A Stranger Things a metaphor for all this. What about 11 though? She closes the portal, right? Everything is fine. Well, my friends, the number 11 means, in the Tree of Life of the Kabbalah, the sphere of Dath. In the Hebraic language, Dath means knowledge, or abyss, being the sephira located in the limit between the superior triad, Keter, Chokmah, and Bina, and the Sephiroth located at the more manifested world. Dath is where takes place a phenomenon usually known as the Black Night of the Soul, when the adept stands at the mental state represented by the daimon Kronzon. To trespass this state of mind, it is essential to reach the consecration of the great work. To reach Dath is necessary first to take contact with the Holy Guardian Angel, who conducts the adept and helps him to reach the abyss safely. So in other words, 11 is indeed the gate through which you can pass into the Upside Down.
Let's go through a list of what happened during the Paris Climate Conference, because there are a lot of strange details that should be pointed out, lots of things that appeared to slip under the radar that people missed. Before we do that, let us return to an oddity. Bilderberg member Laurent Fabius, who made repeated and deliberate speeches that climate chaos would be unavoidable if it was not solved by the last day, September 23, 2015.
On the edge of a climatic abyss. In fact, we have 500 days to avoid a climate chaos.
If such an urgency, why did Laurent Fabius spearhead this meeting of nations for November 30th through December 13th? The deadline to avoid climate chaos has already passed. This does not make sense. That's oddity number 1. Oddity number 2. What did Pope Francis say at the start of the climate conference in Paris? He said the following: "We are on the edge of suicide, but I am sure that just about everybody meeting in Paris is aware of this and wants to do something." What on earth is Pope Francis talking about? Is he merely emphasizing climate change by saying we are on the edge of suicide, or perhaps is he hinting at something else? Oddity number 3. Pope Francis sent a large, very prominent delegation to Paris, although the Vatican had no negotiating power during the Paris talks. In spite of this, some commentators have suggested that Pope Francis and his delegation are the chief negotiators behind the scenes, and are the major reason for the urgency behind the Paris Convention. One of the Vatican's chief negotiators, Bernardino Ayuso, said, "We have seen a universal willingness to arrive at an accord that is ambitious, legally binding, and transformative." Obviously, it was the Vatican's quest to assure a climate treaty that was legally binding of all countries that agreed to it. Oddity number 4. Nearly every single country, 196, approved the climate treaty. What kind of treaty could have brought together countries who normally disagree with each other on just about everything? What kind of treaty could have convinced all the countries in attendance to sign on? What kind of urgency was there in such a treaty? Oddity number 5. The draft of the climate resolution has been kept secret from the public and will only be revealed after it has been finalized and approved. No details have been publicly released about the finalized draft that was voted on by member nations. Oddity number 6. A large globe was hung inside the Eiffel Tower to celebrate COP21 in Paris this year. The globe depicted the all-seeing eye and Earth crisis below it and a large teardrop with the Earth inside of it. Let us not convince ourselves that the Paris COP21 was an innocent and harmless meeting. We are in the year of light, according to the United Nations.
So I believe this moment can be a turning point for the world. We've shown that the world has both the will and the ability to take on this challenge. It won't be easy. Progress won't always come quick. We cannot be complacent. While our generation will see some of the benefits of building a clean energy economy, jobs created, money saved, we may not live to see the full realization of our achievement, but that's okay.
On the edge of a climatic abyss.
Very important issue of climate change, climate chaos, and we have, I said that we had 500 days to avoid climate chaos, and I know that President Obama and John Kerry himself are committed on this subject, and I'm sure that them, with a lot of other friends, should be able to reach success.
Greta Thunberg, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. You told people to vote for Joe Biden last year in a tweet, something you don't normally do, you said, get involved in party politics, but you made an exception. In your view, how has Joe Biden done on climate issues in his first 50 days in office? What grade would you give him?
Well, you shouldn't take that from me. I'm just a teenager, so I don't have the mandate to sort of give grades like that. My opinions on this doesn't matter. You should rather look at the science and whether his policies are in line with the Paris Agreement and to stay below 1.5 or even 2 degrees Celsius. And then you can clearly see that, no, it's not nearly enough in line with the science. And that's not me saying, that's just black and white, looking at the facts.
Yeah. What would you like to see him do to fight climate change that he isn't doing, that he said he won't do? Because his administration is saying we've set up a climate office, we've set up a climate czar, we've re-signed Paris, we're conserving more land, we're undoing a lot of what Donald Trump did. What would you like to see him do that he's not doing?
I mean, I understand that it's difficult, and to be honest, I would not want to be in a politician's position right now. I can't imagine how hard it must be. But I mean, I would just like him to basically just treat the climate crisis like a crisis. They have said themselves that this is an existential threat, and they better treat it accordingly, which they are not. I mean, they are just treating the climate crisis like as it was a political topic. Among other topics, and treat it as a crisis.
In Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law, or Liber Al, the entity he supposedly channeled, called Aiwass, said this. Firstly, 11 is the number of magic in itself. It is therefore suitable to all types of operation. Secondly, it is the sacred number par excellence of the new Aeon. As it is written in the Book of the Law, my number is 11, as all their numbers were of us. 11 is the number of death.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit here. We're going to go back a little bit to a gentleman, Max Spiers. He was an investigator, conspiracy theorist into UFOs. That's how he got started. He was found dead July 2016 in his Warsaw apartment. Now, what is interesting about that is he was found vomited up black liquid, the sofa that he was found on there. What is also interesting is that he was investigating, he was looking into the Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino. I don't know if you remember that name, but Michael Aquino, who was based in Presidio and was a self-confessed founder of the Satanic Church called the Temple of Set, was involved in abuse, child abuse, supposedly pedophilia rings of that nature. That's what he was investigating at the time of his death. So very, very interesting that this super soldier that he claimed to be, a super soldier, experimental things that were being tested on him, that he kind of woke up about 10 years ago and started remembering some of the things that was being done to him. Now, whether you believe that or not, put it all together of things that I'm showing here in the video is experimental, military, black programmable matter around your DNA that you can be controlled and manipulated. It is to the next level with this technology. This is just not some old MK Ultra. This is beyond that technology that they have, the military and the elites have. So another connection is Aquino's niece is working for another company, Umaya, which Umaya is a company claiming to resurrect the dead in 30 years. So with the technology, they want to resurrect the dead with DNA, put you in a beautiful reconstructed vessel, cloned, transhuman vessel with your memories, all of the consciousness, everything. So look at all of the connections here. Satanism, transhumanism, everything that I'm showing you. And then this young man, Max Spiers, a proclaimed super soldier, experimental military use, MK Ultra, who knows what else they were doing to him, vomiting black liquid after his death, and while trying to expose pedophilia rings there, which was under Michael Aquino back in 1988. That's when that claim came out. So just wanted to share that real world information with you. It's not a movie, it's not commercial, it's just information. If you see it for what it is and you connect the dots, as this young man was being controlled, and he was trying to get beyond that control, but obviously not. They had him murdered for what he was trying to reveal.
As the scariest movie ever likes to say, we live in the world of anything goes. Or as the Masons like to say, order out of chaos. Is this what was brewed in the 60s CIA operations? But then is all this occult stuff actually talking about things that happen at the psychological, sociological level? Maybe, but for me the pieces of the puzzle say that it can also happen literally. Not just a consciousness shift, but actual gates. Actual things coming out of the gates. I keep seeing this story being presented to us in different packages. In the video game Prey, they stumble upon this black goo substance. They learn from it. They significantly upgrade human technology, specifically in the area of transhumanist design, where it is the core ingredient. To quote the game, putting what they can do into us.
That's what this is all about, Morgan. You spent 3 years of your life making it possible. Putting what they can do into us.
In the game The Evil Within 2, the world is completely torn apart by a black goo substance with a big eye in the center. In fact, there is an obsession with one eye in this game. Is it the all-seeing eye? In Dishonored 2, you have the Void, a place where you meet the Outsider, a character that also materializes from some dark matter from which the whole realm seems to be made of. The Outsider gives you powers that you can use to get the upper hand in the game, but you can also refuse them if you want.
No. Whatever you're offering, I can make my own way.
Another surprise. So be it.
All the stories, they're true.
In Doom, they have an operation where they extract Argent energy basically from hell, but then it all goes bad and everyone on the station is killed. Actually, a lot of our speculations are confirmed in this game, including the New World Order.
And what will be your final moments in this world? All the rumors, the human sacrifices, the hell portal, the demons. It's all true. My sisters and brothers, be thankful. You will be the first. You will have a seat alongside them, just as I will, in what will become the new world that they create for us. Starting now.
In Wolfenstein 2, the Nazis open a portal to the Black Sun dimension, and they take that energy to create advanced war machinery. Also, a horde of creatures similar to the ones in Stranger Things gets out of the portal and attacks you.
Beautiful, isn't it? Such raw, unbridled power.
Let's put the cherry on top of the cake with Half-Life.
We've assured the administrator that nothing will go wrong.
When an experiment at the underground Black Mesa research facility goes horribly wrong. When an unexpected resonance cascade, a fictitious phenomenon, rips dimensional seams, devastating the facility. Aliens from the Xen dimension subsequently enter the facility through these dimensional seams, an event known as the Black Mesa Incident. Are these games prophesizing something here? Has this phenomenon happened? Or is it about to happen at CERN, the largest particle physics laboratory in the world? I don't know, but that's what I'm here to investigate and find out. And like the conspiracy guy in Stranger Things, I may put the pieces together with a lot of errors, take things out of context and make a large mess, but my main hunch might be true. I don't expect you to believe me, and sometimes it's hard even for me to believe myself, but I think there's something here.
Next clip that I'm going to play is from a gentleman, Anthony Patch. He is a researcher, author, and speaker all around the country. He has used some of my material as he has traveled the country. I'm honored that he has used that. He has reached out to me for my permission to use it, and whatever work that I have that he wants to share, it's his to use. He has a quote, "You cannot separate the physical from the spiritual." I've been saying that for many, many years. Is a lot of people are looking at the physical but not the spiritual, and then you've got the people looking at the spiritual and not the physical, and they never connect the dots. Anthony has done that very, very well, is connecting the spiritual and the physical together. So this next clip speaks to deadly flu shots and third-strand DNA. And on my website, I have a page dedicated to the Mark of the Beast and third-strand DNA, which speaks to the programmable matter and the chromosomes of a man, DNA, etc. But I want to play this clip to you. It's telling you something very, very, very important. And I'll be back after this clip.
Well, we've all heard of the bird flu, and we've heard of tuberculosis, and we've heard of flesh-eating diseases, and there's a number of things that have been going around in the media the last few years, including AIDS, which is still there, and now we have, even strange as it sounds, we have a rise to almost an epidemic level now of rabies, which we typically associate with animals. But when it crosses to the human barrier, to the barrier between animal and human, crosses that barrier into the human, there is no treatment. There is no cure for rabies. Now, you may not have heard this. This is not necessarily new, but it's coming to the forefront. In the
you know what this makes me think of?
What's that?
This is zombie apocalypse.
Absolutely. And that is the context in which the mainstream media right now is placing it, is in the zombie apocalypse. Because that's exactly how people present themselves, if you will. I'm speaking medically, but that's how they appear and how they behave is like a zombie because of the effects of rabies on the nervous system. There were last year and even earlier this year, there were actually drills conducted by our government on the zombie apocalypse and how would first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, how would they deal with these people? So it sounds far-fetched to the average person who hasn't heard this before, but this is nothing new. But let's go beyond the rabies. Let's talk about people getting a flu shot or getting a avian flu inoculation. There is another very insidious disease, if you will, which is really a man-made disease. It's a biological construct called MERS coronavirus out of the Middle East. It's the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. It's made its way into Europe to a certain extent, and eventually, because of air travel, it will reach around the world. It's another example of where inoculations or vaccines are being derived, or they're trying to derive for. That, again, I always like to go all the way to the end. What's the purpose? What's the goal? If you have a man-made or engineered virus, why was it created? Is it simply just to kill people? Well, that's one part of it, but if you go further and you go deeper than that, it is to get people to demand a vaccine, a shot, if you will, or a pill. Why would, if you're in a position of control, of power, of ultimate power, why would you want people to demand a vaccine? Well, it's because something's in the vaccine that you want people to then have as a part of their body. Well, what is in the vaccine that you want everybody to have inside their body? It is a DNA manipulator or modifier. I mentioned earlier third strand DNA. There is already, and you can find this on the internet, in existence, a third strand of DNA constructed of silicon. Again, we go back to the silicon chip in computers. The third strand is made of silicon and is also coated in gold. If you talk about nanotechnology and nano layers, this is extremely thin coating of gold down to a billionth of a millimeter of gold that is coating the silicon from which you are building a third strand of DNA. The purpose of the gold is to increase the surface area around this strand so that more information can be digitally imparted or programmed. You're essentially, what you're doing is you're creating a third strand of DNA. You are transferring that or imparting it into a person's body through a vaccine that that person's demanding because they're afraid of contracting MERS coronavirus or avian flu or whatever it may be. And so the government, if you will, or the powers that be sit back and they kind of chuckle when they say, well, we couldn't have forced people to take this vaccine or to take this hidden third strand of DNA. They would rebel against it. But if we create the problem and present the solution, people will demand the solution. Thus we achieve our ultimate goal of having this DNA in every person changed. Well, let's go deeper. What's the goal? What's the purpose? Yeah, you go around and change everybody's DNA. What do they become? They become a hybrid. The insidious part of this is that once a person is injected, almost immediately their DNA undergoes transformation. Almost immediately they lose all awareness of the fact that they've lost their independence, their ability to think on their own, to make decisions on their own, and to affect them on a moral level. Their moral independence, their beliefs, religious, moral, ethical, legal, all of those go away. If you remove the independent thought and that awareness that you've lost your independence is gone, what then do the powers that be do with these new forms of humans, hybrids? They can control them. They can turn them into a serf class, not S-U-R-F, not surfers, but S-E-R-F, a class of slaves to serve the elite, to serve the Ray Kurzweils of the world who want to achieve immortality, but they need to have labor to manufacture, develop all of the technologies. And they have enough technologies now. The technology, the scientific world, if you will, has reached the level where they don't care about hiding it anymore. Their agenda is so far advanced, both politically, philosophically, their sense of morals, and technologically, that no longer are they worried about you and me as the serf class and the coming serf class. They're not worried about what we think. They're not worried about us rebelling. And in fact, we won't rebel, partly because right now we've been so dumbed down through a variety of mechanisms. But once people demand the virus and they truly are dumbed down to where they've lost that awareness that something's happened to me, now they can do what they want with us. They are achieving what I call the hive mentality, like a beehive. Worker bees, soldier bees, serving the queen. The queen, in my estimation, is this elite class that's in power, and it's not the politicians. Forget the politicians. This has nothing to do with Republicans, Democrats, Tea Party, Libertarians. It has nothing to do with political structure or classes. It has to do with the small group that is in control and has been in control since ancient times.
Shape-shifting material that can transform itself in real time, changing colors and shape on demand. It sounds like special effects you would see in a sci-fi movie, but this is no illusion. Researchers at Intel teamed up with the academic community to make what they call programmable matter.
The basic idea is the notion that you could have a material that could change its shape or change its physical properties just by reconfiguring itself.
Forget about designing something in flat 2 dimensions. What about creating a 3D prototype of anything, even a car?
Open the doors, kick the tires, peek inside to see what it looks like, fit little dolls of, people inside of it.
This space-age stuff is like putty in your hands. Programmable matter is still in the early developmental stages. But Intel's Andrew Chin says one day we may be able to morph objects on demand to fit our human needs.
So for example, I have a Bluetooth earpiece and it fits me great, but then when I put on my sunglasses, it doesn't fit anymore. Wouldn't it be nice if it could change its shape subtly, right, to all of a sudden match that?
I'm still here, guys. I've just been cleaning up. I haven't had much time to do anything today, but I've been listening and chiming in whenever I can. But
wait until you can
I appreciate everyone who stayed. We've got about 10 minutes left in the documentary, but I appreciate everyone who's tuned in.
Well, what if we take that same idea, but think small? I mean, really small. I'm talking about programmable matter, actual 3-dimensional tactile material that can take on any predetermined shape and then change shapes on demand. Imagine that we have a programmable material workstation. That might include a little trough with some beige putty in it. And this putty looks totally normal until you send it some information, like a virtual model of a three-dimensional object. And then it springs into action, forming that object right in front of your eyes. Now, it sounds like it's the stuff of science fiction, and that crazy kind of technology has to be 100 years away, right? Maybe, but maybe not. One approach to programmable matter is claytronics, which is an idea that came out of Carnegie Mellon University and Intel. The base unit of claytronics is the CATM, the computerized atom. Now, these CATMs can work together to form three-dimensional objects on demand. And building that kind of machine is pretty tricky. They have to be able to receive energy. They have to be able to communicate with one another. And they have to be able to move around, preferably without having any moving parts of their own. So several years ago, Carnegie Mellon researchers built CATM cylindrical prototypes that were 44 millimeters in diameter. Now, these things were able to move around on a two-dimensional plane, pushing and pulling against each other using electromagnets. In the future, we want to see even smaller CATMs, maybe just a millimeter in size, or the size of a grain of sand, or maybe even smaller than that. Now, in a future where this is a reality, where we have programmable material, why should we be excited about it? Well, think about it. Email has pretty much rendered the fax obsolete. But what if you could fax three-dimensional objects? Let's say that I have a trough full of claytronic CATMs in front of me, and I take an object and dip it into that trough. The CATMs flow over it, creating a virtual model of the object I've put into it. And then I send that to you, and you have your own trough of claytronic CATMs that assemble themselves into that same three-dimensional object. Boom! I just sent you a copy of a real physical thing. Or in the far future, it could be part of telepresence. Forget phone calls, forget video calls. I would be able to create a full three-dimensional claytronic version of myself that could appear in front of you and give you a handshake or even a hug. The entertainment applications for this alone are astounding. Imagine playing a video game and the characters literally leap off the screen and become three-dimensional creatures in your home. And if this stuff becomes plentiful and cheap enough, we could have objects disassembling and reassembling themselves everywhere. Let's say I've got a bunch of friends coming over for dinner and I want to make sure I got enough seats for them. Well, I could use claytronics to build the furniture right then and there. Then, when my guests leave, I can have it disassemble back into those individual CATMs and go into a vat for storage. One thing we have to take into consideration is this amazing future may never appear during our lifetimes. But I'm still really excited by the prospect of people working on this technology. And we don't even know where it could go. I mean, when people first started making computers, they had no way of knowing that the future would turn out to be as amazing as our present is.
These are the pieces that I can see, and these are my conclusions, but I invite you to find your own and tell me what you think in the comments. Are we taken over by the black goo from the Upside Down dimension literally, or are we going to be the victims of Drexler's grey goo nanotechnology invasion theory? Or is this all about human psychology, social behavior and society structure shifts as part of the Aeon of Horus effects and bringing forth the new world order?
So, let me give you my thoughts here. Since the documentary's almost over, let me give you my thoughts here. This idea of opening a portal that is not able to be closed. I was thinking about this a while back, and when we detonated the atom bombs, the nuclear bombs, I'm not just talking about the ones on Japan, I'm talking about, whenever they first started playing with that technology. It created some new isotopes, or I'm not 100% on the terminology, but it created basically something new elementally that hadn't existed before. So if it didn't exist, where did it come from? So that's the portal. The portal is that something that didn't exist came through a quote-unquote doorway into existence. And so that is basically the portal between the positive pole and the negative pole. So essentially, in my belief, when you die, your spirit is still in that upside down area. But there is obviously a Garden of Eden, a heaven, but it's guarded. There are guards at the gates. This all exists in the same dimension. There are angels that guard the gates to, I believe the Greeks called it the Elysian Fields, the Garden of Eden, heaven, whatever you want to call it, the positive part of that area. And you don't have to answer the questions. It's that nobody will force you to answer the questions. You'll have to first go and seek the gates. So if you don't believe in Jesus, if you don't believe in redemption, if you don't believe in heaven or hell, you'll never go to look for the Garden of Eden. You'll never go to look for the gates. So first you have to ask and it'll be given, and then seek and you will find. That's what you're seeking. Knock and the door will be open unto you. That means, are you going to answer the questions from the guards? And the question is actually profoundly simple. It's a profoundly simple question. The question is simply, who are you? That's it. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to answer it. But some people will go on and on and on, and they'll tell you all about who they are. But the one thing they'll never say is that they're a flawed human being who needs to be forgiven. And so that's the secret. And that's the secret to get past the guards at the gate, is you have to just ask for forgiveness, or you have to accept Jesus. You have to receive the price that he paid for you. And so you ask for forgiveness from Jesus, and so that is what allows you into heaven. But some people will talk and talk and talk and tell you how great they are, that they're the greatest that's ever lived. But what they will never say, they'll talk for 10 hours straight. But what they won't say is that they're a human who needs to be forgiven, because they're fallible. And so that's the big trick. The big trick is that you have to be willing to admit you're wrong. You have to be willing to admit you don't know everything. You have to be willing to say, you know what? I probably had some of it wrong, and I need to be forgiven for that. But I think that's what that portal is. I think it's a portal between the world of life and the spirit dimension. And it's not quite heaven and hell. Like I said, it's not clouds and fire. There's some things that are actually worse than flames, than burning alive. And that's hopelessness without end. Because here on earth, we know that one day we're going to die. We know one day that the pains of life will end. But once you're in the upside down world as a spirit, there's no end in sight. And so if you never believed in forgiveness, if you never believed in redemption, if you never believed in any of that, well, then you just wander hopelessly. And that's where demons come from. They're the spirits that are hopeless, and they wander endlessly because they don't go look for the gates to Eden. They don't go and ask for forgiveness. They don't plead their case. And so that's what I've come to understand, and because that's some of the oldest understanding of the afterlife that there is. As a matter of fact, they would bury initiates into the mysteries in the ancient days, and they would bury them with these gold tablets, and it was called Totem Pass, which means passport of the dead, and it gave them instructions. And the phrase that you were to give the guards at the lake of memory, that being the lake that you drink from that allows you to remember your divine nature, is that you're a child of earth and starry heaven, which is the true secret of the Sphinx. That we're half animal and half divine. That we're a child of earth and a child of heaven. And that's why the Sphinx is, half animal and half human. That's what the riddle of the Sphinx is. So, I guess that was a good enough outro. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the way I reason through things, and I think about them and I ponder on them. But that's as far as I can see, that's what they're getting at, that portal. And you know, I've noticed this weird trend, and it's kind of popped up. People keep saying they're not real. So either they're AI accounts, or they have this something with their psychology where they're just, you know, they don't feel real. And that's pretty sad. But let's see, let me bring myself back up. I hope you guys enjoyed the documentary, or the whatever you want to call it, movie. It's a pretty good one. It really makes you think. My opinion is, yeah, it's probably accurate. I think that whatever this is, I don't quite know about the black goo. I haven't seen it for myself. But thanks, Boots. I appreciate that. Glad you all stuck in and watched it. That was a longer documentary. I've got a lot of them. I might as well plug my show. Urban Odyssey here. I'll actually share my screen. I'll let you see what we've got going on here. I've been doing a, let's see. Yeah, here it is. I've been doing a series on Fritz Springmeier's Illuminati formula. A deep dive, and it's a chapter by chapter breakdown. So now I'm on chapter 5. We're on chapter 5. Here, I probably should. Oh, I'm not on my account. Yeah, so I'm deep diving each of the chapters. It's a really good breakdown. I've got a couple guest writers. We've got Black Flag News, Rachel Sunshine. She's written 2 books. She writes occasionally. She just released her 2nd book, and that's available for free. The paid subscribers get like the deep dive, but anyone can download it for free. And it's pretty good. It talks about the 21st century guide to activism. She went to law school. She's very smart. My buddy Stove has got some experiences with being a former, I guess, a trauma mind control survivor. So he writes for me occasionally. Let's see. We've got some stuff coming out on Christian esotericism, and then deep dives. Oh, here we go. I don't know. It opened a different tab. Deep dives. Here we go. Some of them I release for free, and some of them what I do is I'll release the audio, and if you are a paid subscriber, you'll get the additional. Here, let me find a good example. Yeah, like this right here. So this was a paid episode, and I think I put the book. Yeah, I put a fair amount of notes, and then the rest you get if you subscribe. It's $5 a month, $50 for the whole year. Yeah, and these I'm cranking out as many as I can. I've tried to go through my whole library, and just crank these out. Yeah, so like this, I released the audio for this. This is Isaac Weishaupt's books. I released the full audio for that. That's on Spotify. I plugged him up, and I gave a couple sections of the deep dive, but then there's additional stuff beyond a certain point. Actually, I unlocked it. I did put links to the books, but those are for paid subscribers because I wanted to make the episode available since I was sharing it with his followers, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just giving his material away for free. But if you are a paid subscriber, I put the PDFs at the bottom, so I kind of mix it up. There's a good amount of content for you. If you don't have the money, I understand, no big deal. I offer content for everybody, but yeah, it's a mix of everything. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's a mix of everything. Some stuff on the Apocrypha. Let's see. Yep, that's a 10-minute deep dive, and I'm cranking them out. I'm using Notebook LM, and it turns out really well. But yeah, I would appreciate if everybody checked it out, and you can subscribe. All you got to do is just say subscribe for free. So here, I'll put that up. There it is. Oh, 1 second. Oh, you guys didn't see any of that, did you? That's a shame. I didn't think you did. Okay, so let me do that again. Yeah, okay, so here we are. We have a variety of content. I have the Illuminati formula breakdowns right here. We're on chapter 5. I'm doing a chapter by chapter breakdown. We've got Rachel Sunshine. She's doing Black Flag News for us. She just released her second book. That's for you. You could download it for free, or you can buy it. She writes some news articles as well. My buddy Stove, he's got some very interesting, mind-bending articles. He was the one that I said was a survivor of abuse. And what was the last one? Yeah, Notebook LM. That's what I wanted to show you guys. Notebook LM. So I'm cranking through the library. I'm just pumping out texts. Some of them you get more if you pay. Some of them are completely free. Don't feel any pressure to do that. But I just wanted to show you guys that. And I'm on Spotify as well. Urban Odyssey on Spotify. And with that, guys, I'm going to close it off. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Peace.